Okay, everyone, I have Shurell here, a good friend of mine. Just came back from PSV Eindhoven this past summer, and I'll let him introduce himself. Where are you from, Shurell, and where are you currently working at? You don't have to specify which club, but just give us a general idea of what you do.
Okay, my name is Shurell Wilson. I live here in the Netherlands, near Eindhoven, in a little small village, just 30 minutes away. And I'm working as a youth, at the head of a youth academy. I'm also coaching a senior team, but for the most of my time, I spend coaching the coaches, and I also work as a teacher for the Dutch FA.
Yeah, wow. You're a busy man. A lot of hats. Coach,
yeah, every day.
Youth football, maybe mentor as well for the coaching staff, and also coaching in a senior level with older players. Which environment do you find yourself maybe not the most interested, but something that's been pulling your interest a little bit more?
Of course, the youth. And maybe I should also say that I'm working as a senior coach for most because of the youth players who are have developed to the senior. So they made the step to the senior squads, but they're not there yet. So they still have to develop. And at our academy, we don't have a U23 team, so they play there till they're 19, and then they have to make the step to the first team. And sometimes it's too big for a lot of players. It's too big, and they're not fully developed yet. So they can have the chance to still develop at their own space and time. They don't, and they can still make the first team as well. So we don't lose them because they go away and play for another club.
Yeah, this is interesting, because when you say fully develop, because sometimes clubs don't have the next age group. So when you speak in terms of fully develop, what do you mean by fully develop? Do you mean maturation? Do you mean in terms of ability, or maybe both?
Well, I think ability is never done, because even if you get in the first team, you still have to develop your abilities. But I think here over in the Netherlands, we have certain steps, like everywhere, of course, but they have described it. Yeah, here over in the Netherlands, they always say that they have the best academy over the whole world. I don't think I don't agree with that, but they say. And the problem over here is that you see that because of the system over here, especially in the youth, the youngest youth players, we have a totally different system than, let's say, over in the US. We are working with parents a lot, especially the youngest ages, let's say till they 13 years old. Then they start getting training from more coaches who have the licenses. And the way of working here with clubs is they have a lot of people who don't get paid to coach, but because they are parents. So they expect a lot less than from parents, of course, than they do from a coach who gets paid. And these parents, most of the times, they're not educated. So if they in their youth, or maybe they didn't play at all, because that's a thing that happens a lot over in the Netherlands also. They just get the keys and they get a code and the balls. Good luck. And yeah, they have to find out themselves. And yeah, of course, they go to the internet. Maybe they have luck. Luckily, someone is training on someone else is training or coaching on the same pitch, and then they go watch over there and they take notes. I think that's something that happens over the whole world, but that's the system over here in the Netherlands, because they don't pay a lot, of course, to play soccer. Soccer is the number one. Soccer, I say soccer, football.
You lose. Yeah.
Football. They don't play football over here. They do play football. It's the number one sport, so everyone is playing football, and everybody thinks they know a lot about football. So that's the different thing. That's a difficult thing here, because we also have coaches. They think they are very good coaches, and maybe they have certain licenses as well, but still they don't understand. They don't understand a lot, and that's where my job comes in, to help these coaches to develop them. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I definitely want to circle back to this whole volunteer versus paid, but what kind of effect? Well, because the Dutch have always developed world-class players, and even despite these volunteer coaches, so people would assume that, hey, if these are all volunteer coaches, they're getting their coaching licenses, they don't get paid very much.
Mm-hmm.
But if these coaches just get the baseline of education, how as a nation are the Dutch able to produce so many world-class players as compared to maybe the US? Because we have paid coaches who are, a lot of them, it's their full-time job to coach. They make a living off of this, but we still can't produce the world-class talent at the rate like the Dutch are. Why do you think that is?
Structure. Because although we don't have world-class coaches, and they are not educated as well, at all clubs they have a certain type of structure. So the way of educating the children, yeah, some do have a better education than the other ones, but they do have an education, so they will learn each way. It doesn't matter. At the end, like I said, when they are 13, 14 years old, then they will, if you do have certain qualities, and even though if you don't have certain qualities, everybody is allowed to train 2 times a week, 3 times a week, at least. And if they are not getting coached as well, or they don't get a good education, then and they have a parent who is coaching them, who doesn't know a lot, they still have the ability to play 2 or 3 times a week. They are playing matches, and they also are playing outside, because the environment over here in the Netherlands is structured to play. Kids can play a lot outside, and they play soccer. They play football. I say soccer. I don't know why I say soccer.
Because I'm American.
I think that's the thing.
So you're being a social worker for me, but you don't need to be.
Yes, they play football over here a lot. So my children right now, at this moment, my son is playing football outside with his friends. So and they always have good surface. They have 2 goals. They have balls. Everything is top notch. So that's one of the, I do think, I don't know for certain, but I think And of course, the education. If the coaches get education, they get good education. And like I said, all the clubs over here, the amateur clubs as well, they provide a good structure for all the players. So they all learn the steps, although the other one get better than the other one, but they do get the steps to so they can make it to the seniors, and each on their own level. It doesn't matter, but they will learn football. If you have been in a youth academy from let's say 10 to 20 years old, maybe you cannot play football as good as the other one, but your ability, you can do something. It would be very strange if you're not able to. And what you see here also is that if these players are not that good as well, and they get to the seniors, they always do something back. So they become coaches at that level, at that age already, and most of the times those will be the better coaches because they
You
are
would assume.
starting. Yeah, but what we see here over the last years, we see that those are the ones because they're already starting from a young age, and they get the chance to walk um, with the head of youth academies. They give these kind of players, they give them more attention, and these coaches, because they see a lot of potential in them, so they send these players to do coach education. And they are different than the parents, because the parents, they do one course or maybe two courses, and then they say, I'm stopping with this because I have a job and it's taking a lot of time. And the young ones are very motivated, and they really like it, and they keep going to the next course, next course, next course. So when they're 25, 28, they already got the UEFA C license, and maybe they already have with B license as well. And then they see that there are possibilities to go to a professional academy, and there is where the money is, of course.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's
that's a very interesting system here over in the Netherlands.
Yeah,
And
you
now
gave me the pop-ups as you were speaking.
Yeah.
Just first to go even way back earlier when you were speaking, just speaking about the street football, that kids in the Netherlands still go outside and play with their friends. So there's this culture of going outside and playing with your friends. And I don't want to assume or make generalizations, but just from what I've seen, and even outside my own house, no kids on the street playing football. Everyone's on their phone. Everyone's playing inside, playing video games. The parks are most oftentimes very empty. So a lot of kids are only playing football whenever they have training with their club team, or when their parent pays for a private trainer to train them. So this is very interesting, just in terms of footballing culture in two different countries, and the impact that it has up to our national team level. But another pop-up, coaches, how do these players even, because in street football, it's very random, yes, and there's zero top-down guidance from a coach. And these players are developing references in the brain that they're unaware of. And in organized football and club football, there are coaches who are ideally they're top-down guiding players. A lot of the times we see a lot of top-down control. So these players are like robots. So regardless, they're not even developing any references. They're just doing what the coach says. But let's say it is top-down guidance from the coach in club football. I'm not disagreeing that more repetitions in terms of football situations is important, but the quality of the football repetition in terms of the action. So when children are playing on the street, football actions might not be at 100%, or maybe you're not even playing against a better opponent, so maybe you're underloaded. But still, the Dutch are managed to, or these players managed to develop to eventually become part of a first team or even the national team. What are your thoughts on this street football and organized club football, and the link from street football to contributing to better 11v11 players?
Well, I think that part that you are saying about the players, they play inside, that's correct. Of course, not the whole year, but over here they're also on the PlayStation 5 and Xboxes and Netflix and I don't know what on their phones. But in the summertime, like now, they are outside. They are really outside playing, and the government, the Dutch government, also spends a lot of money making sure that when they are not playing outside that much, that there are organizations who are organizing something for the players, so for everybody to come outside. They want the children to play outside, not only to develop better footballers, but also for obese and all the other things, because that's a problem also here in the Netherlands, like everywhere else. You pop up I have with your question, talking about coaches and the coaching in the US and the players doing what the coach is saying. Over here in the Netherlands, the children have a different mentality, because when someone is asking them something, or mostly when someone is saying them something, they always say why. You must have heard this when you were over here in the Netherlands, that everything gets an answer why. Why should I do this? Why? The players, when you're coaching players over here in the Netherlands, and you say something that they didn't hear before, they always ask you, why should I do this? What's the reason that I should do this? And by doing this, I assume, I don't know for certain, but you don't get off that easily with saying, because I say so, because children don't accept that. They accept that for 2 times, and then they go over to their parents and say, I don't like that coach because he's telling me to do this and that, and will come to the coach and say, you're an idiot, or what are you doing? And I think here over in the Netherlands, people are more direct, so they will say you when they have something on their mind, in their thinking, not on their mind, but in their thinking. So of course, that could be a reason that the level is much higher, or the bar is much higher from the start.
That's we could spend even all of our time discussing that, because I did recognize that going with you to the course at PSV, and recognizing when a coach would just robot a player to do something. He did have that response, well, why do I need to be standing on the wing? Why can't I go towards the center of the pitch, for example? And if as a coach you cannot substantiate or give logical reasoning or the explanation to the player, then you lose credibility. And this was fascinating to me, because here in the US, well, the players I've worked with, or from what I've observed, is that players just accept whatever the coach says and don't give it a second thought. Now, I don't know if it's cultural or not, or maybe it is cultural, because if I even zoom out even further, all the popular sports in the US are coach driven. American football, baseball, basketball, very coach driven. The coach draws up the play and the players just do it. So then maybe this has a cultural influence on the newer sport, which football here in this country is fairly new. So people are just getting interested into it and the league is growing. So then the people who are coming from American football, baseball, basketball, and now have an interest in football, they have this as a reference on how a coach should be interacting, or players have this reference how a coach should be and how you have to interact with the coach. So then it just piles on to football, where it's mostly should be a player driven sport, because situations are random and the coaches cannot have an impact on this. They can only give the players tools. So this within itself is very interesting, and how are we able to change the brain state and the thinking of the player to be not exactly like the Dutch, because I think being different types of players, like having different kinds of styles, is very important in the game. Just to see style, different playing styles, just to create different playing styles. But for the player to understand a reference and understand why they should be doing certain things on the pitch is it's so important. I think this is where the underdevelopment in the US is a lot of it is not the execution, but it's also the decision making. But players need to challenge their own thinking and ask the coach more questions, which would only also make the coach better.
Yeah.
Because if you can't explain well, how are you going to transfer knowledge to the player? And I think players also have the responsibility to hold the coach accountable and not let them get away with whatever they want to say.
Well, what's very interesting, because over here we're trying to self-regulate the children from very young age. Everything that they should do on their own, and when they start playing football, then there are some people who are telling these children what to do. So that's something very strange here, because they already got used to playing outside, and nobody tells them what to do, how to do it, and then they get in an environment where someone say, okay, no, you should do this on this way, you should do it that way, no, you're not allowed to do it. And the children are looking like, why? And they are also asking why. So that's that's a fundamental step for these beginning coaches, that they understand, and that's what we tell them also in the courses when we give them when we're talking about how to help these children, asking questions. That's the only thing that we tell them. We don't tell them a lot, but we tell them to keep asking questions, and the better you get in asking questions, the more you help these children. And I think that's one important thing, because if you teach the children to ask questions, then when they get a coach who is doing things that gives them a question mark on their head, then they will ask a question, and then the coach should
Hmm.
he should explain,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
he won't get away with it if he's telling bullshit. Yeah.
100%. Because and also the coach also needs to be able to reflect in action and take the moment to zoom out and see the facial expression or the body language of players. Because maybe sometimes players they don't want to ask. Well, maybe the Dutch is different, but there's a lot of times where I've zoomed out after what I've said, I'm reflecting on what I said, but I'm also seeing the facial expression of the players, seeing if they look confused, if they're frustrated, and when you work with a certain age group, you could kind of pick it up right away because you've been with the age group for so long. That's a different discussion.
Yeah,
that could be helpful for a lot of coaches. Not jumping from age group to age group, but mastering an age group, but because maybe the child is scared to ask a question for whatever reason. Maybe they've never been encouraged to ask a question, or they don't want to, they feel like the question is stupid. But like you said, you have to be able to point the player out and say, hey, I still see a question mark above your head. Is it clear to you, or what is it that you're not understanding completely? And a big thing that I just wrote down was encourage children to be more curious about everything, not just why is it functioning, or no, just not seeing how something is functioning, but why is it functioning the way it is, or why is not just seeing things at the level of okay, execution maybe, but like just going deeper and deeper and deeper and understanding why things are the way they are. Maybe that can help. That could be a big shift that could help shift the U.S. So much more in terms of how children are raised, and then because players are just humans. So changing how the human is raised could impact how the player is developed.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And what are
now,
some tools that you have to encourage children to be more curious? Maybe it's because I think you're a parent yourself, yeah.
Yeah.
So
I have
what?
2 children.
Oh, beautiful. How do you you encourage them to be curious?
Well, let them make mistakes. That's I think that's one of the biggest things. They are allowed to make mistakes, and I'll tell them. But of course, if they make the same mistake 2-3 times, then I will say I will help them a little bit. But they are allowed to make mistakes, and I'm asking them and ask them, why did you, or what was your thinking behind doing this, and what did you want to, what's your intention behind this? And then they are start to think, of course. And most of the times they say, I don't know. And I'll say, no, you're not getting away that easily.
Okay.
So you have to encourage them to come up with a good answer as well, because children nowadays, they don't know nothing, but they still do things. So if they done it one time before, then especially then they should come up with a good reason, and then I will ask them as well, and I'll say, no, that's not, you're not getting away with this time, because last time you said it, and now what is the reason now? You cannot say the same thing again. And of course I will make a joke with it or something, and then they understand that yeah, I have to think. I have to reason why I did something.
Hmm.
And most times you see that children, and after that, of course, it's kind of a reference coaching. You can reference coach them, and next time, most of the times they won't do it again. They at the same moment they will choose for another. Yeah, it depends on what
Can
has
you
happened.
can you expand on, because you introduced the term reference coaching? Can you
Yeah.
just for everyone watching, maybe they're not familiar with reference coaching. Can
With
you
reference coaching, I introduce a reference, and first I let something happen, let them experience something, and then after that, introduce a reference and explain the reference to them, so the children understand the reference, and after that, the next time they experience the same thing, then the chance of the reference popping up will be bigger. And of course, if they if you explain the reference and it's something that's good, and I see the next time that they do that, they they behave, uh, then I will help them. I will coach them, or I will say, "Well done," or something positive,
Mhm.
and that will help. That will give them a good feeling with dopamine. That inspire. Yeah, I don't the English words don't pop up right now,
It's
but
okay.
you'll know what I mean.
I think it's a
Maybe.
powerful tool that you just gave,
Yeah.
because a lot of people are afraid, not afraid, but they do not allow the child to fail. They don't want to have the child experience failure. So then they're taking a lot of learning situations away from these children. So now they are underdeveloped because they don't have the experience.
Mhm.
They the lecture that they get has no meaning to them. So what I see a lot is people explain things to children, like school. They sit in a classroom, they explain, they explain, they explain. Okay, everyone understand? Okay, good. Yeah, but they have no clue what you just said for the past 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Versus having individual experience a certain situation and it could go completely wrong. Hey, boom. Thank you very much. I'm going to use this as the starting point to then guide you to the desired behavior. So then I explain. So then competence, understanding, or precedes consciousness. So first they have to, like you said, experience something. They don't know why it happened, but it happened. And then you make them aware, you make them very conscious of, oh, okay, that makes sense. Now they can put two and two together. This is a reference coaching. It could also be reference parenting in the parenting context.
Yeah. Yeah.
Allow the child to fail. If you get an I don't know answer, you have to maybe ask a different question, because like you said, you can't accept that. As a coach and a parent, you need to understand what the child was thinking, because there's a reason behind it, and their prefrontal cortex is not as developed in that stage. So maybe you have to work a little bit harder to find the answer. doesn't mean you give up, but you get an answer because it only benefits the child.
Yeah, as a parent, and if you are more experienced as a coach, you will learn to ask better questions so they don't say, I don't know.
Hmm.
And how much more practice you get, the much better your questions will be. One other thing is, when you ask a question, give the child time to answer, because most of the times you ask a question and then in 2 seconds you already something pops out. So wait for minimum 5 seconds. Someone told me this one time. Wait for 5 seconds and then you'll see how long 5 seconds is. Waiting for 5 seconds before the child gets, because sometimes children don't answer because they have to think, or maybe they are afraid because there are other children there and scary environment to say, or they are afraid that they say something wrong and the other children are laughing. So you have to give them time and encourage them to, you can answer. I know you know the good answer, so help them a bit instead of say it for them.
Yeah, because when I speak to other coaches, and I observe their behavior, it's like you ask a question and then you immediately answer the question for the player. So then what's the point of asking the question? Is the question for you or is it for the player? And then asking the questions, answering the question. So you should allow this player time to answer this question, because obviously the reference is not downloaded in the brain, or the neural networks to that answer is not strong enough. And it only gets stronger if they practice their own thinking as well. But you also take that away from them. So you're not allowing them to fail within the thinking process in that question. So you're taking this conversation experience away. Yeah, and then they get older and now they can't have a conversation.
Yeah. Another thing, over here in the Netherlands, we like to talk. We love to talk. We have a lot of conversation with children, especially one-on-one. And I think having this conversation, winning their confidence, so they trust you, and then you can ask questions in a group as well. So in a group setting, and of course, children they all over the place. So they ask, they when you say something, they're like, they're not putting up their hands, or I know the answer, or something like that. But they are find a way to structure that, and don't immediately say, don't stay quiet, don't, because when you're doing that a lot, it stops them from saying the answer. And it's not always like this, because I've coached a lot of teams also where they did have coaches that say a lot, and then you see that when you ask questions to almost adult, 19, 20 years old, they are like looking like an idiot, and they don't answer, and I stay quiet. I have all the time, so I'll wait for maybe like 30 seconds before someone answers it, because I know they know the answer, but nobody is saying it. They're not used to an environment where a coach is asking a lot of questions. So it's not always like all the Dutch coaches are asking a lot of questions. That's a thing. What started like, let's say, like 10, 12 years ago, that they push a lot at in the education system. Yeah, pushing a lot, asking questions. Yeah.
Yeah, that's another interesting point where yeah, when you say the child, when you tell the child and they don't give the answer, and you said those 5 seconds feel like a long time, and then when the adult can answer the question, those 5 seconds feel even longer.
Yep.
And coaches in the coaching environment, in order to get the player to what we've been speaking about, to provoke curiosity, to ask questions, to have the ability to answer questions and articulate their thoughts. The coaches, if this is what coaches want, they should also practice what they preach, and they should also put themselves in an environment where they are going to be challenged and where they're going to be questioned. Because if they don't practice it themselves, question action patterns within themselves, they're reflecting for, in, and on action is going to be at a lower level. But we want the players to be here, but then we underload ourselves and we don't put ourselves in situations where we are also questioned and maybe stumped, and we cannot answer, but we have to really think about the answer. So I think this now is a nice segue to coaching, to where how can you improve yourself as a coach to help improve these players and encourage these players. And what are your thoughts about coaches not willing to put themselves in challenging environments?
Yeah, I was thinking about the 5 seconds that's feeling awkward.
Mm-hmm.
So that's I think that's already an awkward situation for coaches, and they don't want to be in that strange. So they are answering the question. That already feels like that's a problem. The coaches who are not willing to yeah, that I think that's everywhere in the world. I see that a lot here also. So people who are not willing to how do I say this?
Say it in Dutch, maybe I can translate it.
No, the thing is, a lot of coaches, what we do in the education, when we see that these coaches they think they're the next Pep Guardiola, we are letting them fail. We are putting them to the test by letting them in the course. They also have to create. They have to coach a game, or they have to coach a situation, a situation on a training, and then we're letting them fail, and we're standing there with 15 people around them. So yeah, of course the pressure is very high. So, and then afterwards we're gonna evaluate the coach session, and then by asking them these questions, and of course and not me asking them as a coach educator, but the other coaches who are working with him in his environment. So they are doing this with themselves for 4 sessions, and then of course we encourage them to keep doing this. So keep going to keep watching others at the training sessions, and coach them, and like sort of mentoring them. And the first time they don't like it. The second time they're thinking, okay, maybe I can do something with this. And the third time you've won them all over, because then they say, yeah, this is something that I need. And then we see that most of the coaches, I think all of them, almost all of them, they are opening themselves up and they see that it's not taking them nowhere. And especially when they're working with children, they need to change their thinking so they can help the children. It's a different thing, of course, when they're coaching adults and getting paid because they don't mind, they don't care, because everything's about the money. And maybe that's the difference also, because most of these times, like I said earlier in our conversation, uh, they are volunteering. So it's not about the money, it's about helping these children. And most of the times, their own children. So that's a difference. That's a difference.
I definitely want to touch on that one for sure. That had a really big impact on my brain. That last statement you made. I'm gonna hold that one off. So these awkward pauses, they're very uncomfortable for coaches. Now, that probably says a lot about them, because they can't deal with awkwardness, or they cannot deal with something. They don't recognize this unconscious button that's in their brain, and they have not discovered this button, or they're not even aware of this button. So when the moment something feels uncomfortable, and people don't like to feel uncomfortable, they resort to a solution that maybe is not best for the situation, but it's best for them. So they're as an individual, they put themselves as of a higher order than the group.
Yeah.
And that's really interesting, because then it also spills onto coach education and being in the classroom. And like when you were discussing on, yeah, it's very awkward to be on the pitch with 15 other coaches watching you, and you having to perform. And then when you have to critically evaluate yourself based on, and it made me reflect on the coaching courses that I was in the federation, where we would do the training session and we go back in the room, and when we would have to evaluate it, everyone was too nice. Everyone was too nice to say anything. All you got was compliments. Oh, it was very nice. Oh, I liked how the back line was shifting back and forth. Oh, that, the player had a nice pass there. It was, hey, let's strip this down to the bone, and how could we have made this better? And this comes down to not the coaches, because obviously they have no clue. They're incompetencies. Like players, they also have no clue, and it takes an individual to top down guide this process.
That's the reference coaching I was talking about, and in this case, it's the reference coaching of the educator, because in this case, me as an educator, at the moment of the session of this coach who is coaching and he's performing his coaching actions, I'm there to ask questions to everybody who's watching. And okay, do you see this? Okay, why does this happen? And what would be the reason he is doing this? And of course that's an assumption, but okay, if you want to know, how can we find out? Yeah, we have to ask him. Okay, so what are you going to do right now? I'm going to ask him after the session. Okay, and if he says this, is your next question? Or if he says that, what's then your next question? And what would you give him as advice? And what do you see? Because he's coaching and the players are acting differently. Does it make sense to coach the players? Is he coaching the what, or is he coaching the how? And what was his intention? And what do we see right now? What is happening? All these things are questions to ask all the coaches who are on the pitch at the same time, and they are not there to poke out of their nose, but they have to do something as well. They have to think, and they have to realize what is happening on the pitch, and especially they can help. They are the ones who are overloading the thinking of the coach, like the same with the players. They make the session, not the session who is designed, but the players, they overload each other. So the coaches are overloading each other, and an education and a coach education. Yeah,
That's how it should be. And I had a pop up to the coach educator, maybe asking questions while the session's going on. And then that way they're able to reflect for action. So for the discussion after the training session. But is this also done prior to the session actually being executed? So is the coach that is running the training session having to present the training session prior to him doing the training session? That way he gets critical feedback on his design, on his hypothesis, what he expects out of the training session. Does this happen before as well, or only afterwards?
No, this is something. It happens, but it doesn't happen in the group environment. So when we are doing a session, the coaches who have to perform, they send me their design, and they also have to explain what their intention is, and what are their how do I say this? They also have to tell me their improvement from last time.
What they changed?
Yeah, no, not the improvement of the design, but the improvement of, because they had feedback from other coaches. When it's the first time that they design a session in the course, then they already had an assignment where they had to do a session, and someone else has to watch them. So they get feedback, and that feedback they have to take it into the course, and they should improve on the feedback that they had back at in their situation. But they don't have, like you said, that would be really great. But I think the reason why they don't do this is time. It's the time. But it would be very great to add this to the course, so to make coaches think about the whole process before. So the designing of the exercise.
Yeah, because if the quality or the design of the training session is not the best it can be, then no one gets anything out of the training session because the mistakes are so obvious. And then now you're focused on more of the design instead of how is the coach's behavior, and very critically analyzing the way he performs, because now we're distracted by the design not provoking the desired behavior of the players. And essentially that's what we want to get to as coaches, is provoke the desired behavior. But that can't be done if the design is not top.
Yeah.
So then you're basically wasting your time again on the pitch. And then your discussions at the end of the training session is going to be, hey, you made the pitch too small. Instead of, hey, what different questions could you have asked to the number 7? How could we influence the behavior of the number 7? So now you might end up in superficial talks about pitch size instead of improving the individual player within the team.
Yeah. We should imagine these sessions and what just get out. Everything is golden. What I tell these coaches, because for them a whole new world opens up. Even the coaches who are more experienced, when they are in these certain education sessions, they because it's not me reference I'm not saying a whole lot. I'm just designing the situation so they coach each other. Of course, I'm saying things, but it's like I'm whispering in their ears and they ask the questions and I help them think. I'm asking the right questions so they can answer, and they give feedback to the for instance this coach who designed the session, and it helps them a lot. And what's great about this, as a head of youth academy, I've also learned how to coach these coaches, so I'm doing this in my own environment as well. So I'm not only doing these coach education sessions at other clubs, but I'm also doing in my own environment as well. So I'm helping each new coach who is entering the club gets this education before they start, so they already have certain references to start with, and that helps them a lot.
Yeah. No,
And that's structure. That's the structure what I was talking about. Yeah, we have 4 points. It's structure, stimulate, individual attention, and self-regulating the players. So every session should have all 4 of them in it.
And it's is there a reason it's in this specific order?
Yeah, because structure is the most important thing. If you don't have structure in your training design, you can forget it. So and it's not only structure in the training design, but structure in everything. When you're coaching a team, it should be structure in everything. So you should have rules. You should make rules, and rules can be different rules. It could be how we treat each other, and it can also be rules with the parents, because when you play games, how do we who's driving, all these appointments, the rules, yeah, that's also structure. So in different ways, the structure, it's very important, structure.
Yeah.
Here in the Netherlands, everything is structure. Everything we do in the Netherlands, structure. Everything is very structured. Even the roads here are structured. You cannot find something that's not structured here in the Netherlands. It's like the Dutch thing. Yeah.
It would be without structure, things are purposeless.
Yeah.
You need to always work purposefully.
Yeah. Exactly.
structure.
Although there's one thing that's not structured here in the Netherlands, and that's the meetings. That's because we love to talk. Yeah.
So I like that. Structure, stimulate, individual attention, self-regulate.
Yeah. So with stimulate is, of course, stimulating the players, and make sure that always in a positive way.
Could it also be can it also be negative, but in a purposeful way? Not negative as in like it's very, very bad, but
I know what you mean. Like sometimes you have to be. You cannot always be nice.
Yeah.
Sometimes you should stimulate a play, but in a yeah,
Maybe you're
like
trying
always.
to provoke an incompetent behavior that
Mhm.
you want to test whether or not it's there, because
Yeah.
maybe you've recognized something. So now you create a situation, like,
Hmm.
for example, maybe this player has a temper,
Yeah.
and not out of a malicious intent from the coach. You you're the role of the referee during a training match, and you make bad calls against the player to see if he can handle this situation. And then if he reacts in a negative way, learning moment.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's an example of maybe not always positive, but maybe you not negative in like a bad sense, but to expose incompetent behavior that you want to test is there or not for the growth of the player.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah. Exactly. That's another way of stimulating a player. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Uh,
could be
individual and
positive, could be negative. Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
individual attention. What a lot of coaches don't recognize is that there are certain players who are more quiet, who are not like we ask a lot of questions, but sometimes you have these players who always know the answer, always yes I know the answer, I always answer, and there are players who are much more quieter. They are more like the how do I say this? Um, from their own perspective, they are much more quieter,
Yeah.
but deserve the attention. So you have to make sure that you give everyone the attention that they need. You have to make sure that everyone gets their time. You have to, even though it's like you give them a high five at start of the training and give them the feeling that you know that they are there, and you motivate them with stimulation, of course. That's also a way of giving individual attention, so the player feels he's recognized.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 'Cause
Individual
sometimes,
attention is very
yeah,
important.
yeah,
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. You can't
yeah,
ignore any of these players. They need to feel like they belong.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And
That
from
they're
time to
part of
time, you have a conversation with them. How are things at home? How are things at school?
it. Hmm.
You notice them when they are entering, when they step. Uh, hey, there's something wrong with you. What's wrong? Maybe something at school. Maybe at home something happened. You recognize immediately, especially when you yeah. We have a certain thing. I don't know if they do it in the US as well, but we always give each other hands or like fist bump,
Hmm.
and that's the moment when you have eye contact with the player and you see you're looking in their face, and when you see their eyes are watching somewhere else, you know, hey, something. I have to ask more questions to purposely find out what's wrong with or maybe there's nothing wrong.
How do you see it? Should the coach go to the players and go boom, 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 or should
No,
the players
yeah,
should
you.
also go to the coach? Which one should it be?
I think you should create an environment where it's safe for the players, that they eventually they will come to you
Mm,
as player. Because if you how do you say it? Uh, um, if they have to do it because it's a rule, then it's not natural. It should be something that happens natural. Yeah, the players they have a certain kind of respect, and respect is something that you should earn, but you should also give. So yeah,
that's that was a good point. That you create this environment where then you create this environment and then eventually over time it becomes the norm.
Yeah.
Because yeah, that's it's a good way of looking at it for a lot of coaches. You have to do something that maybe is unnatural, but you want to change the behavior, and you have to be consistent with it, because over time it will be the norm.
Yeah. So I'm like, at first I'm the one who's going over to the players. I'll give them a hand. I will a bump. Okay, how you doing? Everything did this, and over time, when they start to know you and they start to you get them their trust and everything, then you see players are coming in and they are coming to you. So then you start to recognize, okay,
I
because
see.
when you do something strange, of course, and they don't like it, but they accept it because you are the coach, because they also know, if I say something about, yeah, it's not like everything what you do wrong here over in the Netherlands, but sometimes they know their place, so they know if I say something right now, the coach is benching me, so I have to watch out. But yeah.
So this is being consistent with your coach behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you're inconsistent, the players uh gonna have unconscious stress every time they walk into training. Like, okay, which coach are we gonna get today?
Mm-hmm.
So then that could be that could already be detrimental to the structure
Mm-hmm.
of the training session.
Yeah.
But if you're very consistent, so your behavior is the same. So this is the stimulus, and the stimulus is the same, and then 14 out of the 15 respond the same, and then this is the anomaly.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're like, okay, we have a problem here. So
Yeah.
it's much easier as a coach
To
to
recognize.
to identify where the issue is, or where there's a potential issue, versus you constantly being inconsistent with your behavior and then trying to identify something that's wrong, because now there's two parameters now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because is it your behavior or is it the players? And you'll never figure that out if the two parameters are different.
Yeah. Yeah. Great,
Yeah.
great way of explaining. Yeah. So yeah.
Then we have
And then of course the last one, and it's in chronological order,
Mhm.
because if you know these things, then you'll eventually get to self-regulating players, because you give them structure and you stimulate them, and by giving them their individual attention and you help them, eventually they but you have to give them the responsibility at first also to become self-regulating. So by not telling them how to do something, but like we already said, let them make the mistakes. It's no problem to make a mistake. Yeah, they can it's their process, so you have to let them own their own process.
Mhm. When I see these 4 points, I'm trying to critically evaluate self-regulation, because you have structure, you have stimulating the players, individual attention, which is something that's in the control of the coach.
Mm-hmm.
But then self-regulating seems more like an outcome.
Yeah.
So does it belong in the 4, or could we replace
Yeah,
it with a different word?
we can replace it, because I'm using the wrong translation. uh, Giving responsibility maybe is better,
But that could also
because
fall under individual attention.
Yeah, I do think that they use these four pillars because they are verbs. Do I say this correctly? They
Mhm.
are
Action words.
yeah, action words.
So it should
But
be
that's a good. That's
structuring, not
yeah.
structure. It should be structuring, stimulating, providing
Hmm.
individual attention
Yes,
to make them more
and
verbal. And then number 4 is an outcome and not something that's in
yeah,
control.
it's not really an outcome because it's still something that you should do. So by giving a responsibility to you, you leaving the responsibility for the players, and you let them actually you let them think. To give an example, uh, warming up.
Hmm.
Yeah, let the players design their own warm up. What do you want to do? Okay, you and you today you are doing the warming up.
Hmm.
And then they have to. That's a way of giving responsibility, and eventually, and that's what I mean with the self-regulating part.
Hmm.
Eventually, they will become self-regulating that they can
Hmm.
do the warming up themselves.
So when we refer to self-regulating, you're referring to the players.
Yeah.
This is why the 4, that's why that 1 out of the 4 doesn't fit, because the other 3 are coach related
Hmm.
and the 4th is player related.
Yeah, that's
That's why I don't see that it fits.
it's
I'm not
correct.
going to
It's
change.
correct. It's
I'm
correct
not
what you
going to change the
say.
Dutch Federation, but for our own thinking, practice.
Yeah, it's a good one. So I'm I'm taking this back to the Dutch FA, and I'll ask this question, and I'll get back to you,
Mhm.
and I will tell you what they will answer.
Maybe
Good one. It's a good one because they changed it over the time. It was self-regulating.
mhm.
In certain courses, they called it self-regulating, and in other ones, they called it giving responsibility.
Mm. Yeah, because then that could also fall under any of the other 2 categories where I'm
Yeah.
stimulating the players or I'm providing individual attention.
Hmm.
And then,
It's
like I
yeah,
said,
that's correct.
regulating is the outcome or a hope.
Yeah, and individual intention and stimulating can also they do because they are related to each other, and
Mm.
they have overlap. They are overlapping each other, so that's correct. Uh, I'll have to get back to you with this
That's
one.
okay. Yeah, yeah,
But it's a good question. It's a good not question, but it's yeah.
yeah. No, that's why I wanted to understand why it was in the order it was in and where does each one fit. And then the 4th one gave me unconscious stress. It's like 1 out of the 4 didn't belong, because if we're speaking about coaching,
Mhm.
self-regulating is the way you explained it was for the players.
Yeah.
Maybe it could be reflecting. So you do all this and then you reflect, or maybe you do all this and then evaluating.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, I have to dig deeper, and I'll get the answer to this. Yeah,
Beautiful. Because
but
definitely
it's great.
more meetings with you would be very, very nice to have.
Hmm.
Different perspective and culture, different set of eyes, different thinking, and then that way we could give a lot of coaches more tools to
Yeah,
maybe help them in their environment. But I
yeah,
think
that's
that
great.
there are 4 very good points, 4 very good points. And even then, if it looks like a football action, even though the outcome was excellent, there's still room for improvement.
Yeah, always, always. I have a question for you as well, because we are talking about youth academy a little bit. What are the intention? I think you do, but do you have age-specific individual intentions? Age-specific intentions.
In the U.S., they explain it in a way where it's behavior driven.
Can you give me an example?
Yeah, so they give us a list of what the player should be working on in that age group.
But is it then really player orientated only, or also team orientated?
Yeah, so
Or does it depend on the age?
Mhm.
Which age category?
It depends on the age, but a lot of the quote unquote skills overlap from age to age. So it's very confusing at times. Like, oh, okay, well, this age group, so like under eights are supposed to work on dribbling, and then under 18 should also work on dribbling. So then you might create a session that might not be age appropriate for either age group. And I think that we used to have, and it was very similar to Bert Van Lingen and Raymond Verheine's youth football book, where they did have it when I was doing the A license. And I saw the similar structure, how it was mastering the ball, making purposeful actions with ball, learning to play as a team, and then learning basic tasks, in coordinating basic tasks, learning to play for competition. This we had, from what I've seen recently, from documents that I've seen from the federation, it's been more behavior driven. So I see like what it's trying to give the coach objectives within themselves. Like, hey, you should be working on passing. Okay, so the whole session's passing. And that's hey, okay, so like you said, there should be age group intention, and then based on the references the coach has, to find the best solution or application to accomplish the age group intention. And I think the structure is missing, and we see a lot of coaches with no starting point for a certain age group, and they are copying and pasting what the professionals are doing to under 8, under 7 children. And as they get older, there are gaps in their development. And now under 15, under 16 are now missing tools that they should have learned in under 7 and under 8. But because there's no guiding intention.
Exactly, that's what I meant, because that's structure, of course. That's what I meant with even though there are a lot of parents who are coaching in especially the younger ages of the youth academy, and some of them are being educated and some of them don't. They all know that, like you said, mastering the ball on the 6, on the 7. That's a stepping stone. Do you call it step stone? No, guiding a guiding. So it's guiding the coaches that they should master the ball before everything. That's the most important thing. That and how they are doing by dribbling, by stopping the ball, by it doesn't matter. So they are allowed. They have. It's like how do you call it?
Reference?
No, not a ref. It's an. It's like
Guidelines?
yeah, it's like guiding lines. It's a guiding line for them, and in this guiding, in this, they can do everything they want as long they don't step out of the yeah, not the guiding line, but they call it it doesn't pop up right now, but in
Out of the rondo circle.
yeah. Anyways,
No, you can't leave the rondo circle.
yeah. I got a lot of pop-ups about the Rondo also because I always see these
We can discuss. That could be a
Rondo
different
for
topic
hours.
today.
For hours. Yeah, but it's something that will help a lot. And
Yeah.
sometimes sometimes you will see that there are coaches who are doing other things, and then you ask them, okay, what's the reason that you are are you are try to play as a team? I can say that. Yeah, but my team is so good; they already master the ball, and but these guidelines, they of course they are built on the prefrontal cortex of the players of the children, and they're not ready for that yet. So they have to understand what's the thing behind it. So yeah, that's one thing that's really structured here over here in the Netherlands, and not only in football, but in all the sports.
So you're providing glasses, very clear glasses for the coaches to see how football should be trained for specific age groups.
Yes.
Yes, that's a big help. And then unfortunately our country is so big, you can't go to all these coaches and view all their sessions. So you would hope they're self-regulating, but it's difficult to do.
The Dutch FA, the KNVB, the KNVB is right now the intention is to have all the coaches, everyone who is a coach in 2025, all should be educated, all the coaches. So everyone who starts coaching immediately should have an education. And of course, there are differences in each course, but they should they are not allowed to coach any longer without a license. So
and how would they regulate this? There could
how
be
do you mean it exactly? Can you explain your question?
So okay, well, there's a objective to have all the coaches by 2025 to have a coaching license. And
like the basic coaching license there is the first one, and you have I think you have 5 levels right now. With UEFA B, UEFA A is UEFA Pro, of course, is the highest. No, 6. There are 6, and you're going back down. You're starting here, and you gradually will build up. So,
but there could be a sneaky fox that says, "Okay, I'm just gonna keep coaching without anyone noticing me."
Oh, okay. That's your question.
Yeah, because in the U.S. there's been situations where the league has required B license minimum coaching,
Mhm.
and the directors list their names as the head coach, but they hire a coach with a lower level license that shows up
Mhm.
to the game,
Yeah.
and now they're the ones coaching, and they get away with this.
Yeah, that's a difficult thing, of course, because you don't have you have the FA police, let me call them like that, to control,
Maybe
yeah,
there should be a
to
new.
watch every club and every team and every but um, um on paper, of course, they should have them, and of course everyone should. Yeah, I don't know exactly. um
Maybe the federation can also work with referees, but then
well,
these referees are gonna now be football licensing police,
oh, they
and now
do because here in the Netherlands, we have a system, uh they call it Sportlink, and when you're playing a game, every player who is playing for the club should be in the system, and you can only get in the system by a you get a pass by the Dutch FA, and the coach also as well. He should have a certain license because otherwise he's not allowed to coach on that level.
Mhm.
And if you're not having, if you're not licensed, or if there's a player who's not allowed to play for the team because he's suspended or what other reason, he's not. You cannot list him on. You cannot put him on the list. So he's not allowed to play, or the coach is not allowed to coach.
Mhm.
And the every game before every time before the game starts, the referee is how do you say that? Um, he controls. He has a phone with everyone's name and picture on it. So you have to prove that every player is allowed to play, and also the coach is allowed to coach. That's the
Mhm.
system that they are working with. But of
And
course, if
and
the
if
referee
there
doesn't
was a
show up,
situation,
sorry.
uh, apologies, if there was a situation where the coach didn't have the license level, or maybe the coach couldn't show up,
Hmm.
and someone else had to cover the game who doesn't have the license level,
Yeah.
is the game not played?
No, the game is someone else has to coach then, and the club is allowed to put another name on the list, so they can add one other person to coach. And if they don't have another coach, the game is not played. They're not playing.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's very strict. It's
Yeah.
very strict. But of
So
course,
it's
you
the
have.
bar very high, I can imagine.
Yeah. Yeah. So the system, this system really works because yeah, a lot of players play for this club and then they play matches for the other club. All these certain things happened, and then they invented the system, and it works very well.
So you don't
Yeah.
have players trying to they call it here, I hear the term sandbagging. They the players at the higher level teams
Hmm.
are now invited to play in the same day after their game to help
Yeah.
the lower level team
No, it's
win a
not a lot
trophy.
because they can only play for 15 games in one season. So the player who plays in the higher level teams, he's only
Mhm.
allowed to play in a lower level team 15 times a year. And after the 15 times, he's not allowed to play for one or the other. So with youth players, that's a problem. With youth players who not always play in the first team, but if they play 1 second, it counts as one match. So the coach think very wisely when he substitutes the youth players and let them play, because after 50 matches they are not allowed to play in the youth academy any longer.
Wow. Now that's interesting to me, and
Yeah.
feel like that system should also try to be put in place here, because you see kids playing hundreds of matches a year.
Crazy.
They play one tournament, 5-6 games. Then next weekend, hey, would you like to play with us? Okay. Then another 4 matches, and then you play the league, and then you're playing in 3 leagues sometimes.
Do you know how many matches kids play over here in 1 year?
I'm curious.
I think if you're playing on the highest level, what age?
Let's go under 15.
Under 15. In total, they will play, I think, around the 30 matches.
30 matches a year.
30 matches without tournaments. 30 matches.
Wow.
You play 15-15.
That's
So the season is split it in half, and you play 15. So from let's say September till December, and then from February till May. 15-15. And they play on the Saturdays, of course, over here.
Yeah, teams get that many games in one summer. Here, it's a big problem, because there's always this culture of more is better.
Yeah.
But then obviously you understand the repercussions of too many games and not enough rest time, too many trainings, not enough rest times, and then we could put the player in a situation where they receive an injury that doesn't allow them to play anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So it protects the player. The federation, based on what you're saying, is doing everything they can to protect the players.
Yeah.
Which should also be done everywhere around the world, and not to use the players as a tool or to make money.
That would be that would be a wise thing to do. Yeah.
That's a breath of fresh air. Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much time you have left. We can keep going, or
we can keep going for hours, but it's depending on your recording time, of course.
It's unlimited, so we can keep going. But it's up to you, because it's coming closer and closer to you.
I think it's very interesting, and when you're watching the clip of this clip back, I don't feel like I'm like totally different, or now I'm like oh, you're recording. So the only thing that I really certain words won't drop or won't fall in right now, and it's because what I said already. If you're not speaking English every day, and if you're really in vacation mode, it's very strange to have these kind of conversations, and especially in English. And I've been reading conversations back, or not really the conversations in a whole, but notes of the conversations that Raymond had with all the delegates, and then you find some but the pop-ups, the words like if you're not reading a lot, or if you're not watching the clips back a lot, then they will fade away.
yeah. If you're not constantly practicing using the references, then the neural network is not so the neural networks in the brain do not get developed. They don't get thicker. So then the signal in the brain is not as powerful. And it's I think it's a good representation of when we were discussing, I think you were there with about Bloom's taxonomy. Yeah, where
Very interesting.
First you recognize information, then you develop understanding, then you apply, then you're able to evaluate. Eventually, you're able to self-regulate, and then you can create. Creating is the final stage. But you can see like a lot of people are at the very bottom stage of just recognizing information, and they have trouble developing understanding. But that's because they don't probably because they don't practice a lot where they test their understanding.
Yeah, and that's something, of course, when you're not only practicing it a lot, but also in both language. If you are bilingual, yeah, we should have a lot of these conversations. That's why the mentoring part is very interesting in this program, because you get a lot of time to practice, to applicate in this case. So you can test your yeah. And the other thing, it's late over here, so my my prefrontal cortex is like,
I've also noticed that in the previous conversation, as the conversation grew later and later.
Yeah.
If you're not also improving your thinking fitness, your thinking fitness, then you die out as the conversation goes on.
Exactly, and that's the thing, because like I said, vacation mode, and now the last thing we did was the Eindhoven course, and then it was like straight going to 2 o'clock, and you have to still think next action. So after that, the first 3-4 nights I couldn't sleep, because I was like, where's the action? Let's go. Let's read something. Let's do this. And my wife was like, what are you doing, man? Go to bed. Are you crazy or something? So yeah, very interesting. I have a question for you. Another question. Did you watch the clip that I sent you?
Not yet. I was reading the articles.
Yeah.
And then I was having discussion with a coach who's writing a book in terms of perception, and how perception is a important part of not only playing but also how people interact. The book comes out next year, so I'm going to pre-order it so I can give them critical feedback on it. And I was watching him coach, and we were also giving critical feedback to each other. But your topic actually came up: walking from the top, walking from the bottom. Because I asked him, because I think he has a doctorate, I think, and he studied perception. And I asked him this question, and even he was curious about it and how it affects actions if you're more right side dominant or left side dominant, et cetera, et cetera. So maybe you see more out of the right eye than the left eye, or it's a clearer image on the left side and blurry on the right side, and how it changes the way your body mechanics are. And no, I after this, I promise I watched the video, because I was busy.
That's not the reason why I'm asking, but because we can discuss a lot of things. But the reason why I'm asking,
because I was like, should this be the topic? And I was like, no, I haven't watched the video. So when I watch the video, then it's going to be a very, very good discussion.
Well, the reason why I'm asking you is because I'm trying finding things out as well, and because I told you in one of our bus rides, uh, it made me because I promised you that I would. It made me have to search all the things, and I opened up one of the clips that I had, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, this is interesting. So I told my neighbor, my friend, my friend is my neighbor also as well, and he went to a course about this. So he came back and he was like, oh man, this is great. We should. He was like really hyped, and he hyped me up. So I was like totally hyped, and then I wanted to hype you up again. So I was already thinking, okay, maybe I should ask Jan, because he's uh, as a coach, educator at the highest level. What do you do with this on the highest level at the Dutch FA? Because and then we can ask Raymond eventually. So because I know he has the book as well. I saw it he knows about this. I definitely know because but this is of course when you're talking about you just said it, Bloom's taxonomy. There are certain levels to get there before, and then you understand, and then you can go. But this is very, very, very interesting stuff. And if you watch the clip, then you understand what I mean, because it makes a whole difference. Uh, and yeah, I'm already trying to explain. I don't have to explain. Watch the clip, and then we'll get back to this, because I think on this subject we can also talk about hours and hours for hours and hours and hours. It will blow your brain. It will make it. Oh, okay. I didn't think about this before.
Yeah, because I definitely want to improve my ability to find deficiencies in the way players' body mechanics, because maybe when Raymond said, yeah, the action could be excellent because of the outcome, but there's still a deficiency.
Yeah.
And that stuck with me. So now I've been analyzing when I do my film analysis, and I view the player and I find the pattern, and all you see is the execution. Obviously, you want to solve it at the football action level, in the football context, but sometimes you have to go out of the situation to fix the biomechanics of the player. This was an interesting discussion from the goalkeeper discussion I had on Wednesday, so a few days ago, and the coach showed a practical example and his application, and he said the player knows where the ball's going. So the goalkeeper was diving to the right, but he was already preloading his right side, so he's already cheating.
Yeah.
And I said, what could happen? So the player now is conditioned to put all the weight on the right leg all week, maybe all month. Could this possibly cause an imbalance in terms of a muscular imbalance or a biomechanical imbalance of the player? So now when it's in the match and he has no clue where the ball's going to go, the brain is conditioned to preload the right side, and then the shot goes to his left. And now, so you try to solve a problem, but you accidentally create a bigger problem. And coaches need to think in this way. And so, which is why I want to improve my ability to say, oh, boom, biomechanical issue. Look how he's loading his body vertically or loading the body horizontally on which axis, and
preferences, because everything's about preferences, and every player has a preference. So knowing that players have preferences, what use is it, or should you help them with their not preference? Of course, you should, because they should learn some things. But if you know, um, um, how do I say this the correct way? If you know the motor skills of a person,
Mhm.
and certain people, their preferences are that they are not, their motor skills drop in later in their development. So they're walking like a robot. We hear we say they're walking like a robot. And
Mhm.
what a lot of coaches are trying to do then is with the speed, how do you call it, with
Ladder. The
with
ladder.
all kind, yeah, ladder, speed ladders, and with all basic action training, they try to improve it, but it doesn't improve that way, because their development drops in later. That's the thing. You should do normally a football session for, and not a basic action session with them, and they later on they'll get loose, so the motor skills will develop eventually.
Yeah.
But knowing
And
it,
so falls under intention. Is
yeah,
why it's very important to have those age group intentions.
yeah, of course, because if you don't know this, what you're doing is training with these speed ladders, and you'll. I was talking about stimulating these players, and you see you're not walking to the ladders right, and all these kind of
Yeah.
crazy training, coaching. It's not good for the players, and it's not good for their self-esteem.
Yeah.
So
It's like what are you? A football coach or a PE coach?
yeah,
Which one
yeah.
are which one are you? Okay, then what are the speed ladders are out for? You should be teaching football. And besides, the speed ladders are all one size.
Yeah. That's
We're gonna give the
that's
same
not,
speed ladder to Cristiano Ronaldo to Messi. They have different
yeah.
their body compositions are completely different. And you give the same speed ladder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
Again, critical evaluation.
that's a very interesting direction of, and it's not only the motor skills, but it's also knowing all these things helps a lot, and also knows you also know how the prefrontal cortex of this certain person works, and especially when they're under stress, and what happens with the body, because some people the muscles they are freezing. So when they're stressed, they're freezing, and they're not able to
They
to
contract.
do certain things. Yeah,
Very
yeah,
high muscle tension.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it helps a lot.
Yeah, because then if you increase muscle tension, you also could increase the chance of injury.
That's another thing. But it could also be a reason when you're missing a chance.
Yeah, because the player doesn't know how to deal with stress.
Yeah, yeah. So he touches the ball totally in a different, on a different spot, or with a certain tension on his muscles, and yeah. But
Yep.
watch the clip and you'll understand what I mean.
Absolutely, I will. I promise. Because in the next conversation, I want that to be the next conversation.
Will do. Will do.
Yeah, yeah. All right, Shurell. It's what is it? 10 o'clock your time?
Yes. Yes, it is. Start to,
All right. I
now I see
appreciate
it's very dark here.
yes. I appreciate your time, man. I really do. The converse. Look at my notes.
Yeah.
Crazy mess.
Yeah,
Crazy
and
mess.
then always
But
you're connecting the dots, and then
yeah,
yeah,
all the
yeah.
arrows and yeah. But No, I thoroughly enjoyed our 2 hour conversation, which didn't even feel like 2 hours.
Mhm.
Just flew by. But
I
do
did
you
as
have
well.
any final thoughts or reflections, or how was this conversation for you?
Well, maybe I'm curious if you watch it back, because then you'll see maybe at first I was talking a lot, and then later on I start calming down, and then I was more thinking what I'm saying. So I was like rattling all over the place. Um, it's good to finally have a conversation, a real conversation about football for like I think almost a month. It's 3 weeks ago that I see you. That was my last real football conversation.
Yeah,
So
June 9, no, June 21st, something around there.
well, it's
So a whole month. It's been a whole month.
a whole month. So yeah, I should find someone to have conversations with. That's not good for me.
Yeah, we
But
could
I'm
do
very
something.
thankful for your time. Yeah,
We could do it whenever you want, because I can also add friends to the conversation as well. Maybe they give a
interesting.
different perspective.
Of course, of course.
Yeah, because
Of
then
course.
they might have a pop up that we never had, or it could also test our understanding
Yeah.
of the topic.
But what you said about, of course, the four pillars, and what you said about the coaches present their design before performing it. So before executing the coaching action, of course,
Mhm.
that's a thing that I'm gonna think about it, and I'm gonna test it in my own environment and see what it does and how we can make it as efficient as possible. So maybe I can pitch it at the Dutch FA that this should be a step that we should take. Yeah.
That'd be amazing to hear your coach action and how you apply it. How maybe even uh, how you're able to describe and explain the problem, and then create a hypothetical solution, and then interesting to hear about your application. So you just going over all of that,
Mhm.
your coach action for that, and sharing that with us would be very valuable.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it would be the same way for you to hear it from you as well. So because I asked you, it was one of my questions to you. How do you reflect after, and how do
Mhm.
you make sure that you also try to improve after that? Because for me, and I hear this a lot. For me, reflecting is no problem, because when I'm driving home, I'm reflecting a lot. I think it's a personal thing for me as well to reflect a lot. But other people have a lot of difficulty with reflecting, or with not reflecting, but to improve their coaching, their next coach action.
Mhm.
So yeah,
It's reflecting becomes easier when you have the right glasses on. What are you reflecting on, or what are you trying to improve? And then that should help guide your reflection process as a coach,
yeah,
versus having no intention and no glasses, because then your reflections are just all over the place, and then you end up doing the same thing again anyways.
of course,
Mhm.
of course, yeah. But I have a lot of interesting questions and pop-ups, and yeah,
Yeah. Next,
yeah.
next
Well,
you can
next
even turn the
conversation.
tables on me. Yeah, yeah. Next time you
That's
turn
good.
the table on me and you ask me. But this was a super fun conversation. I really enjoyed it. So
I
thank
enjoyed it
you.
as well.
All right,
Yes.
man. You have a good rest of your evening,
Yes.
And then
And you, the rest. How late is it right now? So it's
only 1:24 in the afternoon.
you have the whole day ahead of you. So enjoy your
But
day.
gonna take the time to watch this back today. So
Great.
and then now that it's gonna be online and watch it again and again. But
It's good, man.
I appreciate you willing to have this conversation, and I appreciate you being open to recording it and allowing me to post it online to share. So
No problem.
thank you so much.
No problem. See
Until
you next
next
time.
time.
Okay,
Have a
it's
good one.
good. Have
Ciao.
a good one. Ciao.